Welcome to Trillium Healing Arts Peercast. I'm Julia Wolf, energy healer and transformative life coach. In these episodes, I sit down with members of the greater healing community to talk about ways to facilitate our growth, evolve into our true selves, and manifest our dreams. Here, we dive into the art of healing. I have the pleasure of sitting with Otter at his beautiful home in southern Vermont to talk about how we can reconnect with Mother Earth and her nature within us. In Sky's book, Wild Earth, Wild Soul, he writes, "Instead of wishing for a bucolic return to a lost paradise, we can view the industrial age and what led up to it as a painful and destructive, yet necessary, step in planetary evolution, as a manifestation of a descent into separation consciousness. Every era on planet Earth, even the extinction spasms, has eventually led to something grander, more creative and abundant. Why should this time be any different? We can return to the garden, but it will be a different garden." In our talk today, we explore our relationship with the natural world and our imagination for healing the world, one world at a time. Hello, Sky. Thank you so much for joining me on this amazingly beautiful late spring day with the birds and the wind rustling the leaves and the turkey vultures flying overhead.
Great to be here, Julia. This is pretty much the most gorgeous place I could possibly think of to do something like this. I mean, it's just, I love it because I live here, but I also love it because it has a lot of prayers and intention here. So doing this interview with this intention and this focus, it works particularly well.
You know, we're here today to talk about how working with the natural world, how reconnecting with Mother Earth helps us on our own healing journeys. And, you know, as you say in your book, Wild Earth, Wild Soul, belief in a separate self is a psycho-spiritual illness in need of healing. But before we dive into how working with the natural world and seeing the naturalness of us as part of the world, before we dive deeper into that, can you tell me and our listeners a little bit about yourself?
It's funny that you asked that question right after that quote about the separate self as a psycho-spiritual illness. So if you ask me to talk about myself, you know, that's the assumption is that myself is my history, where I was born, my credentials, and, you know, those sort of things, my bank account, and delving into this field is clearly about seeing ourselves as so much bigger than that. So yeah, I know you want a personal answer, and but I couldn't resist saying that to you.
Yes, thank you.
And to whoever's listening. But born in Brooklyn, New York, actually had some very interesting nature connecting experiences there. And felt the more rural life calling me, got out of the city at 37 years old, started a not-for-profit called Sacred Earth Network. Oh yeah, before that I was a woodworker. And I think this is very important in terms of this bigger picture view, bigger self, is that I had a really profound mystical experience when I was 26 years old in New York City, out of all places. A 1 million-person demonstration for a nuclear freeze, which at the time meant calling for the U.S. and then Soviet Union to stop escalating and stop, the nuclear war rhetoric, because all of our life and all of our children were at stake. And it was a deep feeling, and I get very moved thinking about this, very deep feeling that this was the earth speaking through a lot of humans, were like, no, we're not going down that road. And the love, like I'd been in the anti-Vietnam War demonstrations, and they were very angry and aggressive, and this one was just peace and love. It was 1 million people who were in, just in the most peaceful space, being peace for peace. And that just, and I also felt like I had taken LSD, and I hadn't. And, the Japanese monks came out with their drums. It was so super powerful. So that just started a whole deep dive into being in service to the bigger picture. And, there's a lot to say. People can look at my bio. But I like telling that story because it was so pivotal. I was drinking too much at the time. And, it was like, it was this step from, it's kind of all about me and my survival and my family and my, to like, oh my God, there's this evolutionary trajectory, this big thing that's going on planet Earth. Not only do I want to be a part of it, I am a part of it, and I am a part of it with every single thought that I think. And so anyway, just to finish this intro, I went to the Soviet Union then for the first time, and what they said, kind of like the sincere biologists and ecologists there, they said something like, I think, our experience in World War II is we lost 20 million people. We don't want to go to war with you. It looks like nuclear threat is going to recede now that we have some sane people in charge. Maybe we ought to work for the earth. And so it was this environmental collaboration that then started a whole lot of things into motion, to the point where you and I are having a conversation about, in a sense, almost a completely different topic, but the general one is the same.
Yes, it is. And you and I met, actually we met online at a Zoom circle during the pandemic, a sharing circle. And then I met with you in around another circle, and that was a drumming circle. And then I met you within a circle in a sweat lodge. And then within another circle being your yurt for a landscape shamanism class, which you now call our sacred landscape. And that's one of the things I'd like to talk about today, is about this program of yours, Sacred Landscape. I mean, I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, and in a time where kids just ran out and play, and any empty lot turned into your playground, which was mine. We called it the Dirt Hill. I was blessed to grow up in a family that appreciated the natural world, and we would go camping and canoe camping and backpacking. And so I grew up with the idea of when you go on vacation, it means you go into the woods, which carried over as I grew up, and it was always my backdrop for play, rest, relaxation. And then when, as Pema Chodron would say, when the ground fell from beneath me and I found myself in a place of deep introspection and healing, and trying to figure out where I'm going to go, how I'm going to move forward. I developed a different relationship with the out of doors, and it no longer became the place for me to rest from my busy work week, but for me to understand myself and listen to the birds speak to me and the squirrels chirp. And I would ask the forest questions, and I discovered that the forest answered them. And that's what led me to wanting to learn more through your landscape shamanism course. So do you mind talking a little bit about what you're now calling our sacred landscape?
No, I love talking about it, and it's a beautiful fast forward from that 1982, June 12th, 1982 experience in Central Park in New York City, like what happens 40, 50 years later. I was listening to the red-eyed vireo there, so it sounded. I was thinking to myself, it's just going to go on and on and on, back and forth, but it decided to, move on. In working on kind of global environmental issues, I came to the conclusion, like I think many people, that the local is global if you treat it as such. Take care of your landscape, learn from your landscape, and the kind of key piece in the transition from kind of this mainstream environmental activist and peace worker to our sacred landscape is the indigenous connection, meaning the teachings that I've received in Native America and Native Siberia. And so I guess to kind of emphasize some of the basics, it's like, the earth doesn't belong to us, we belong to the earth. And so in the sense of our local sacred landscape, there's everything to learn here. There's everything to learn about the natural world and ourselves. And the deeper and more intently that we dive in and kind of be comprehensive about it, like not just be botanists or geologists or geographers or mystics for that matter, but combine everything as you experience in the class. There's almost a transcendent quality that comes out, and that in our love of the landscape and our intimacy with it, we learn about ourselves as humans in a whole different way and kind of tap into a deeper level of connection that, as you mentioned, I think before we started talking, is very, very healing and somewhat unexpectedly that I was going to say, in terms of the personal aspect, like it's not all about our personal histories and what happened to us, and it's not that those things don't matter, but when we really learn about earth, air, fire, and water in the most intimate way, and in the spirit that moves through all things, and the plants and the animals, we just really we expand in a way that unfortunately most people don't get a chance to expand. And so I'm so enthusiastic about I'm actually going to start a second book called Our Sacred Landscape, because I'm that thrilled about what I think of as a no-brainer that's so easy that if we just take let's say a 50-mile diameter from wherever we live, 25-mile radius, and learn everything about it, which will only take about 10 or 15 lifetimes. We're just going to learn so much about each other and ourselves. and it's walking that in a sacred way, and including science in a way that is deferential to the spirit.
Beautiful. I look forward to that book coming out.
Thanks.
So, one of the things we did in your class, we always had homework, which didn't feel like homework. It felt more like heart work, you know? And, we explored the elements, and we explored the elements around us and within us. And it was really very beautiful, and it was beautiful to sit in circle and share. And two of us in the class I took did not live in this immediate area, and so it was fun for us to bring in a little piece of Maine and a little piece of central Vermont here to southern Vermont, and talk about our landscapes, that we lived in. But one thing that was really interesting to me was the power of the shamanic journey to the different elements. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that in I think it was 1997 or 1998, I attended a workshop from a guy named John Perkins, whose title was something like Ecstasy in the Earth. And it was so bold, that he would just use the word ecstasy in this cynical society that I got to go see this dude. What is he up to? And he was bringing all this shamanic medicine from Peru and Ecuador, South America, for that matter, all over the world. And there were, 60, 70 people there. He and a few other of his assistants had drums. And they were they didn't really even spend that much time explaining things. They were just lie down and journey, find your sacred place, find your guides or something like that. And I'm just lying there, and it's just oh my God, what is happening to me? Again, no LSD, no mushrooms. And so why I'm talking about those first beginnings were there's all sorts of science about this, and that's not necessary to go into, but there's intention and percussion, and leads to pretty profound experiences for a lot of people when they sort of learn the basics of how to do this. In fact, I would say 90% of the people that I journey with, or 95%, have mind-blowing experiences that are unexplainable from the dominant paradigm. And so all I ask is when people find out about this, that they do it with integrity. Learn how to do it and do it with integrity.
Absolutely.
Don't exploit it. Shamanism is such a sort of almost controversial and loaded phrase, and so I'm just all about wanting people to do it in the best way possible. But as you were saying about the elements, just being willing to journey to the power of fire or any of the elements, if we're willing to almost give ourselves over to that, some really amazing things can happen, and they seem to for so many people. And I think most importantly, in terms of this class, the shamanic journeys provide this portal into a much more kind of creative perception of any part of the landscape. That it seems to set something up that busts out of the kind of way that we've been taught to think about the world. And I'll always be amazed at what comes out of people's mouth. I mean, it's just, and that's probably one of the reasons I'm going to write this book, is I just want other people to hear this, look what she said, look what he said. No, never mind what I said.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these are just ordinary people. They're not necessarily devoting their whole life to this particular subject, yet they're doing the essentials of the shamanic path, which is to bring back beneficial information, bring back health to the people, to the rest of us, to the tribe.
Yes, yes. And to the individual.
Absolutely.
And, I say very often when I talk to people or write that I just want to help the world so much. And the best way I can help the world is to start with this world. And as I heal my world and I help others heal their worlds, the world heals. And it does take one person at a time. Yes, it takes policy as well. But it also takes that one person at a time, and connecting with Earth in a way that is not exploitive is such an important place to start. And I think this may have come from your mouth as well. We don't own the landscape landscape owns us, So yeah, I can remember having a very powerful journey with you during that. I was journeying to the element of water. And, this is all very interesting. People often ask me, oh, is that your imagination? Is it my imagination? Are we just making this up? Of course we are. Of course it's our imagination, and what comes up really can be affected by our connection. And like you said, in the beginning was intention. What is our intention? And after my heart work of observing the water in my landscape and spending time with the water in my landscape, we came here to your yurt. And we did a journey to the element of water. And it was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life, I just climbed into that fast-moving mountain water in my imagination and flowed and followed that stream until I came to the sea. And there in the sea, I became the salt water. And then I became the bird life that lived off of there, the pelican, the shearwater, the albatross. And I spent most of the journey just interacting with the ocean the way the animals do, the way the birds do in this case. And it was just so beautiful. And then you went to call us back. The drumming changed. It's time to come back. And I'm, at this point, just enjoying water as an albatross. Like, I don't want to go back, So it's like, I got to come back. So I dive into the water and I become the salt water again. And then I entered my body through my feet and I'm experiencing the water in my body, into every cell. And, and I'm coming up, getting closer to the heart. And I get to the center of my torso and there's a dam. And I can't get up. And this voice comes into my head that says, interesting. The liver, the organ that metabolizes emotion, what is going on here? And I did come out of the journey, and it was so profound to me. And I did a lot of work on that. What's interesting is speaking with a friend of mine who's an acupuncturist. The liver is often the organ associated with emotional stagnation. I'm like, so where am I stagnant in my life? Anyway, it's just an example of how the natural world can give us information. And it was a moment in my life where I was able to make a shift and to process some things that I had not been looking at, you know? So it was beautiful. My world became a little better.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Oh.
There's two things that you talked about which I think are really leading edge for me in terms of kind of entering into this mystery in a way so that it's replicable and more people get it. And I'll just say parenthetically that when you're talking about working on yourself, and so many people are getting it that they need to that self-awareness is so critical, and so many people are. I'm just watching people grow and change in amazing ways right before my eyes, in ways that I just didn't think was possible. Like, it seemed like it was slow 20, 30 years ago, and now it's just people are just busting out. And we've got to, and it's beautiful. So the two themes to me are what you said about imagination, and what was the last thing you were saying about your personal journey? There was something there. There was the
stagnant emotions.
The stagnant, right? The damming, right? So those two things I'd like to touch on, and that is that when you say, of course, imagination, it's like Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. And what he didn't, it wasn't his field, but what the shamans say is that the imagination is like the portal to the spirit world. So in the dominant paradigm, we've got this thing where it's just like, oh, it's just your imagination, and it's just like, it's just fluff. It doesn't really mean anything. But from the shamanic standpoint, it's like you're delving into the heart of reality, the deeper intelligence, and that's where the real creative juices are. And he always said, Einstein was like, his greatest his greatest insights came, in intuitive, unexpected ways. So yeah, again, shamanic pathways, not just journeys, lead us into more necessary creative insights. And then the part about the dam is like, so we industrial humans have been damming the rivers, damming the bloodstream, damming the circulatory system of the planet. And no wonder we're in a traumatized society. So the humans hurt humans, and we hurt the earth, and then it's one traumatic process that needs healing. So it's sort of like we open up together to those inner dams and outer dams, so that we can feel the waters running freely through us, so that the waters, if grief is often necessary, or it is necessary for us to move through a lot of difficulties. So yeah, I'm just making that connection of busting the dams free and busting those inner dams free, so we let the waters run free, all the waters.
Beautiful. I like how you pulled that all together. That's just wonderful. And we're getting close to the end of our time, and I just want to touch on one point that you were saying about the shamanic culture, and how they see imagination being the connection to the spirit world, and again, connecting that with society and our our lust for knowing, having to know, and the double-blind studies, and being attached to what we know. And so what comes to mind for me is that creation exists in the unknown. So when we don't know, that is when the most beautiful things can be created. Otherwise, we're just recreating the same stories.
The West, the direction of the West and the medicine wheel is really moving into that unknown. And it's a wonderful way to live. Like, we don't know. I mean, we're talking about, what was it, the lifespan of a bee, roughly 30 days, and somebody looking, some being, or you mentioned the turtles, and it's just like every moment is unknown. We don't know when our particular form is going to end. We have a sort of sense of, mortality, when our mortality, when we might check out, but we don't know for sure. So walking on that razor's edge into the unknown is very exciting.
It is, actually.
What an adventure, right?
It is, absolutely. And thank you for this adventure. This conversation was lovely. The birds are still singing to us. They seem to be enjoying the conversation as well. So, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. I could talk to you all afternoon. It's beautiful.
You as well. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. If you want more information about this episode, visit us on the web at theyurt@trillium.com and click on the Peercast tab. A special thanks to Steve Devoni for the production of this Peercast. Thank you for joining me, and may our paths cross again.